What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. We've had some pretty key departures at different game studios over the past day or two that we're going to be talking about here because they're a pretty big deal. There is not like someone, I guess, like the entry-level floor or anything who left the studios. No, these are like at that top of these studios. And we're talking about places like Rockstar and The Coalition. I guess we'll go over that and what that could mean for either of those studios. We can't really tell why, but well, we'll see what happens and where they go from here. And then also that Animal Crossing story that we covered the other day, where it was about the save games. And of course, we had some other issues where you could back up your island, but there's only one per system. Well, it gets even weirder than that. Yeah, we're going to go over just how much more restrictive it is than even I thought it could be. As always, guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure that like button does help out. And if you're brand new here, make sure you hit the red subscribe button down below with the bell icon on. That way you can stay up to date with all of the gaming news going on right now in the gaming world. And we're going to start today with Daemon X Machina, of course, going to PC pretty soon. And people got pretty excited for that. I still don't think the game is going to all of a sudden explode in sales, but I think there could be some cool stuff going on there on Steam and like the modding community. I'm sure, like I said, we'll have different Gundams and stuff added to it, which is cool. But of course, there are going to be some extra features added to it because it's going to PC. Generally, you expect all kinds of graphical options, resolutions, and even frame rates, right? Well, we have some translations here. As you can see, this was actually posted by Black Kite, who talks about several things, which includes different frame rate settings. Of course, we expect, 60, that's pretty clear, but then also 120, 144, and even 200 frames per second. That's exciting there, as long as you have a monitor that supports up to that amount. And then you have resolution up to 4K. Of course, we expect that as well, but then you also have high resolution textures, anti-aliasing options, and several other parts with that. And then also has more mouse and keyboard support, and then the collab DLC with things like The Witcher. Those are actually not included. So I guess it's more or less the base game with the updates that they've done to improve and fix some of the gameplay elements. But hey, it's going to be obviously the best looking version of the game. Not shocking that it would be on PC. And the idea of faster frame rates for that game is great for responsiveness. But it still, to me, comes down to what the modding community can do with the game, because I'm sure, you see games, Armored Core style games, fans love those style games, has a really, really good fan base for that. Hopefully, it kind of catches on with them and we see some cool stuff in there. But hey, high frame rate, good looking visuals. It's going to be pretty neat on Steam. We also had a kind of a funny story with Phil Spencer, who mentioned that Nintendo and PlayStation are not really Microsoft or Xbox's competition anymore. This more or less sounds like it's something from Microsoft, but this is what he had to say in an interview. When you talk about Nintendo and Sony, we have a ton of respect for them, but we see Amazon and Google as the main competitors going forward. That's not to disrespect Nintendo and Sony, but the traditional gaming companies are somewhat out of position. I guess they could try to recreate Azure, but we've invested tens of billions of dollars into the cloud over the years. And we've seen, obviously, Microsoft work with Nintendo, and even Nintendo says, we're not really trying to compete with them. You kind of are, because it's still entertainment and people walk into the store and they decide what they're going to do maybe that night or that weekend. Are they going to get a game for their Switch, for their PlayStation, for their Xbox? Or are they going to get a movie? Like, it gets technically entertainment overall, like all encompassing, but when it comes down to video games, you pick between really three companies right now. But what Phil Spencer's saying here is we got to keep an eye on Amazon and Google, as they are doing, of course, the game streaming stuff that we are trying to push with xCloud. More or less, he's just talking about cloud right now, as that is one of Microsoft's biggest pushes with their data centers in Azure. But we'll see how all of that shakes out. I don't know if they really consider Google Stadia as much competition anymore, as it's really had a hard time catching on. We'll see what Amazon has this year, although I kind of hope they learned and looked at what Stadia did and they maybe kind of try to work something out that's a bit better than that. We also had some new Game Pass games announced for both console and PC. We always seem to talk about console Game Pass, but we had PC ones released, or at least announced as well for release this month. Let's take a look at the PC ones first. You can see the little slide they put out here. Final Fantasy 15, Wolfenstein Youngblood, and then Death's Gambit. If we jump over to the console version of Game Pass, Wolfenstein and Final Fantasy are the same, but Death Squared is coming instead of Death's Gambit. I actually like Death's Gambit quite a bit. I think that was a pretty fun 2D style Dark Souls game, basically. But seeing Final Fantasy 15 and Wolfenstein Youngblood, which Wolfenstein Youngblood is an okay game. It's not amazing or anything, but Final Fantasy 15 is pretty cool to see just kind of get thrown on Game Pass there. Still is one of the best values in gaming right now for the money, I would say. And if you're not signed up to Game Pass, you might want to start looking through that library. it might surprise you a bit with things like Grand Theft Auto 5, Final Fantasy 15, and others there, of course, the first-party games. It's getting pretty stacked, but you also have to keep an eye on stuff that leaves, such as Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is actually leaving pretty soon, so keep an eye on that as well. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with Animal Crossing New Horizons. Now, the game itself is shaping up to be pretty good. I mean, it looks good from what we've seen and everything, but there is a bit of an issue alongside of it, not even really anything to do with the game itself, how it plays, the content. I'm sure we'll even have a full direct before Animal Crossing comes out to give people a better look at the game overall. It seems like this is going to be the Animal Crossing game to get, and a lot of people are very excited for the game itself. But there is also some concern around, well, your island, your save, being able to back it up. That has been a problem that people have been pointing out. Cloud saves, of course, are not compatible, and that seems strange considering that's part of your paid online. They say it's for time manipulation purposes. They don't want you to be able to upload your island, do all kinds of stuff, and then go back in time, I guess. But that's a whole thing there. I don't really see Animal Crossing as a competitive game, so I don't really care if people want to do time manipulation, although I'm not as into Animal Crossing as others, so maybe that is a really big deal for some people. But then we started getting into issues where one system, one island, and that didn't go over as well with everyone at that point. And now something else seems to have been found that is confusing even myself, because I thought we were already kind of restrictive there with the one island per one system thing. It looks like you may not be able to transfer it at all off of your Switch, even if you get a new one. We had, of course, that German download code that we talked about for the file size and the amiibo support, but something else was also translated off of the back of it. The transfer of user and save data between consoles is not supported by this software, and you might be wondering, what exactly does that mean? Well, if you get a new Switch, some of you have probably already done that. You may not have your original Switch anymore. I don't have my original Switch that I use now. I have the newer HAC001-01, right? The one that, of course, will have better battery life because it's on the newer chip, or the chipset that they have currently, and it's a good Switch, right? Most people were upgrading to it, or maybe you got a Switch Lite because you like the form factor more. Well, at that point, you may have transferred your data over before you traded it in, or you just gave it away or sold it. According to this, it sounds like Animal Crossing won't support that part either, you go to transfer it over. Now, I want to point this out because this was going all over the internet at that point, right? There are articles popping up everywhere. This is a translation. So I do want to stress that there is a possibility that this could be a mistranslation, or maybe they just interpreted it incorrectly, and that this could be something that is supported, transfer from one system to the other. And I would really hope so. This would be one of the strangest situations ever for what is a very large franchise for Nintendo. I think this is going to be the best-selling Animal Crossing game ever. This, I think, will be it. I mean, we've seen games explode on the Switch in terms of sales numbers already, and Animal Crossing was a big-time seller on the 3DS with New Leaf, so yes, I expect this Animal Crossing to most likely touch 15 million units sold by the end of this year's, no problem. Which tells me that Nintendo should have a pretty large focus on supporting the game, or at least figuring out a way to make sure that you can have some peace of mind with your island. That makes sense to me. I think it makes sense to most people, because if you spend years and years on the island and then you have no way of even transferring it to, I don't know, maybe the new Animal Crossing Switch that you get later on down the road, or you get a special edition, it's odd, because it does kind of go against what Nintendo is trying to do, which is sell you another Switch. Instead, they are kind of trapping you on one Switch. If you want that island to continue, you could technically start a new one on a different Switch, but it's a weird situation. I mean, I assume we'll know more as we get closer to its release, but right now, it looks like one island, one Switch, no save backup, no way to transfer it even locally. I don't get it either. And it seems like even fans of Animal Crossing right now don't get it at this point, because now it looks like several petitions are popping up on change.org, of course, because that's always what happens when these things come up, where people want to sign and show that they want some kind of solution to this. Happened with the Mario Maker 2 multiplayer stuff, by the way, which Nintendo actually addressed and tried to fix, so they at least heard the fans of that game. And you know what? This game is going to be much larger. So, well, at least they're trying something. It has over 21,000 signatures, one of the ones that I saw. So maybe Nintendo will hear, and maybe they will figure something out. But for now, it's not looking great when it comes to peace of mind for your island. Next up, let's talk about some big departures at big studios. The Coalition, of course, has Rod Ferguson and then Dan Houser. is at Rockstar, or at least they were. This is odd. So let's take a look on Twitter real quick. You can see here Rod Ferguson does announce starting in March that they will be joining Blizzard to oversee the Diablo franchise. It's interesting. Of course, Rod Ferguson was the studio head for the Coalition, which of course developed Gears of War, but going to Blizzard to do Diablo, you know what? Actually, that wouldn't be bad because, well, Rod Ferguson's obviously very good at what he does, leading the Coalition to do things like Gears of War 4, which is, I think, a very good game on the Xbox and, of course, on the PC. But going to work with Diablo, I almost wonder if Mike Ybarra, because he's at Blizzard now, had something to do with grabbing Rod Ferguson to make this happen. I think he will work pretty well to get Diablo to the finish line. And, you know, Diablo fans probably looked at this and got really happy, and they're like, oh, good, we have some good leadership in there to get this game done that we want to be really, really good. But then on the other side, Gears of War fans are probably like, oh, no, that was the Coalition studio head that's been working to put some high-quality Gears of War games out. What's going to happen there? Yeah, that is an interesting departure. But maybe they really wanted to work on Diablo. They probably got a better offer even from Blizzard. And now Mike Ybarra going to Blizzard, and now Rod Ferguson. A lot of Microsoft people starting to move over there to do some work with Blizzard. Then the other one is very interesting. Dan Houser is leaving Rockstar Studios. I did not expect this one. This was a bit of a shock. In fact, a lot of people took to Twitter. They were completely taken off guard, surprised. Take-Two actually announced this in a press release with investors, and I don't think anyone could believe this. See, Dan Houser actually co-founded Rockstar, had a ton of influence and work on the Grand Theft Auto series, writer for pretty much, I think almost all of them, and of course was the lead for things like Red Dead Redemption, Bully, the list goes on. A lot of Rockstar games that you know and you play and may have enjoyed, he had a pretty big hand in those. And the fact that he's a co-founder and is now leaving leaves some questions, I would say, on the table, like why? Maybe you got to the point where he's, I'm ready to retire, or maybe is there a better opportunity out there than to be the co-founder and one of the leaders for Rockstar, a company, of course, underneath Take-Two technically, but I mean, they're doing Grand Theft Auto Online, and that's been working tremendously. They have the best-selling game ever with Grand Theft Auto 5. This is odd. I really hope that Grand Theft Auto 6 at least got mostly done by the time he was leaving. Maybe that's what he was working to do. Get Grand Theft Auto 6 all finished up, and they'll be ready to show it soonish maybe. And then that was his last project, and he was ready to go into retirement. It's going to be really weird if he pops up somewhere else. If it's like with EA or something, that'll be strange. But for now, maybe he's just riding off into the sunset after what looked like quite a bit of work, I would say. Large portfolio of work. Maybe he's just ready to kind of move on. I don't know. We'll see if he pops up anywhere else. Next up, I want to move over to the Famitsu Sales charts. This, of course, was for last week for all of the games that are sold at retail. And we're going to start with the top 10 here. And you can see Ring Fit Adventure is actually number 1 at 30,111 copies. And then we have Pokemon Sword and Shield at number 2, 29,429. Yakuza Like a Dragon, which has actually been dropping off quite a bit, but it has already eclipsed 200,000 units there, but 21,158. Dragon Ball Z Kakarot has also been plummeting, I would say, in the sales charts, 13,866. Then we have Brain Training, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Minecraft, Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Party, and Splatoon 2. Now let's jump over to the hardware. The Switch at the top, 75,922. That means that it has, at this time, well, as of, I guess, the end of last week, eclipsed over 12 million units sold in Japan in less than 3 years. That is insanity, by the way. And then we have the PS4, 6,282, which it has seen a bit of a sharp decline, but we kind of expect this with all of the PS5 talk going on right now. The 3DS below that, 599, and then the Xbox One at 38. So let me ask you, does it surprise you to see Ring Fit Adventure at the top of the sales charts? It's been pretty popular. Remember, we've had supply shortages, and it's at 650,000 copies sold in Japan so far. Seems like Nintendo found a hit here, and that's good, especially after Labo. While it sold, it definitely didn't sell, I think, as well as Nintendo was hoping it would, whereas Ring Fit Adventure hit the scene, and it is rolling right now. People seem to really enjoy this game. The PS4, though, like I said, has fallen off a bit. It is down pretty badly, significantly, year over year right now, and I don't think it's going to be a good year for the PlayStation now. Of course, some key titles, Ghost of Tsushima, and then Last of Us Part 2, those should help to boost somewhat, but I think we're getting to the point where anyone who wants a PS4, like has a PS4. They just announced they've sold almost 110 million units at this point, right? I think we're getting that part of its life cycle where you're just buying a second system at this point if you need one, or you're upgrading to the Pro. But why would you upgrade to the Pro if the PS5 is coming out at the end of this year and it's touted to have backwards compatibility? So that's just where we are. But hey, Ring Fit Adventure rolling along. The Switch, over 12 million units in Japan already in less than 3 years is crazy. And in our last bit of news, talk about the Atari VCS, the system that I feel like everyone forgot about, but I'm still supposed to get one, so I'm not going to forget about it. I've been looking for some kind of information on the system. They put out a Medium post recently talking about how they were working through manufacturing issues, but for the most part, they have it all figured out, and it is eventually going to show up at my house, at my doorstep, and we can check the thing out. But there was an unlisted video going around that I believe they sent out that does show kind of them working and playing with the system, and like it's in its dashboard. And I mean, it doesn't look bad. I'll be honest. The way they were moving around it, they have some pretty cool transitions. It looks better than like Stadia's dashboard, I guess. Like the Stadia's dashboard caught me off guard as being simplistic. Atari's catches me off guard as being probably more complicated than it needs to be when it comes to the transitions and the effects and everything they're doing, because when they do get to something they want to play, it looked like it was just Atari games or it was Netflix, and okay, sure, it wasn't like any like serious games or anything, although I guess they really didn't sell it as that. I don't know what they're selling it as. That's the biggest thing there, but we did get a look finally at it in motion, and for the most part, it doesn't look terrible. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Mr. B saying, hi, they might delay the PS5 release. There was a revision rumor. They may be having production issues. Who knows? So there were rumors going around for a while that the PS5 was like supposed to come out last year or something, and then it got delayed. And I've seen these online. These things exist, these rumors, and it was always crazy to me, but those actually might not be as crazy. I guess it's a strange story apparently, and I don't know enough about it to really talk too heavily on it. But yeah, if you look around online, there are rumors about the PS5 supposedly coming out last year, but there were some problems and issues and it was pushed back, and who knows at that point internally what was going on at Sony. The weirder things to me was after these rumors came out, we of course then had Sean Layden leave, and we've seen like some restructuring with Jim Ryan kind of taking over. All this kind of caught me off guard and actually kind of connected and added up, but hopefully the PS5 is on track like they would like it to be. They keep saying holiday, over and over again for this year, so I expect it to be coming out when it's supposed to be. It's on track, but it is taking them quite a while to show it to us, and I think the reason we believe that is because we already know what the Series X looked like. Microsoft has shown us the Series X. They've shown us a game, Hellblade 2, that's supposed to be on it. We're just kind of waiting to see what Sony has. And you know what? They could wait all the way until like April or May, and it would still technically be on track because we would know about, what it is and what it looks like and what it plays still months and months in advance, half a year in advance of when it's supposed to go on sale, we assume in November. But here's hoping we hear about it sooner rather than later. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button, really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it is Animal Crossing New Horizons, this still strange, this story keeps developing, by the way, but the strange, very restrictive nature around the island itself and your save data, it's pretty serious around a game that's not at all competitive, but I don't know, maybe they really want to make sure that nothing gets exploited on these islands. What about those departures? The Coalition with Rod Ferguson moving over to Blizzard, or Dan Houser just leaving, just departing Rockstar completely. Do you think he pops up somewhere else? Because that would be a very large acquisition for any one company, and I almost wonder if EA is looking at that thinking, maybe we should go grab him. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.